It's getting hot in here. We have actually lived through one of the worst heat waves in Australia in 2 decades. And as a result, I have been feeling hot, sweaty, and flushy for the last 3 days. It was a long weekend. However, did you know that there is actually a massive audience or group of patients or demographics of people of a certain age and of all races, cultures, and backgrounds for whom this is a daily reality from the age of 40 and up. And these women, particularly, are often completely disregarded, dismissed, are almost made to feel invisible by healthcare providers in the healthcare system. Who are these women and what are we going to be talking about today? Well, to know more, stay tuned for the rest of the video. Welcome back, everyone, to my channel. Thank you very much for your continued love, support, presence, and feedback. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shweta. I'm the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals from non-English speaking backgrounds improve their language as well as communication skills in order to build better relationships with their patients based on trust and credibility, as well as stand out in their places of work as a person of excellence. So, as I mentioned in the very beginning of the video, we're going to talk about a topic that has always been particularly misunderstood and also, from what I've found out through my research on the topic, quite stigmatized. And that is the topic of menopause. Now, I have to admit, my knowledge and awareness before doing this video was very limited. And to top it off, I have little to no life experience either of someone who's gone through menopause. I have another decade to worry about that. However, a lot of my friends are actually experiencing or have gone through menopause. And they were the ones who told me firsthand how they were treated by their healthcare providers, how they were made to feel, how they navigated through the journey as patients. And it really inspired me to make this video on some of the problems that really exist in healthcare systems across the world, about not only where there are so many gaps in the space of not just women's health in general, but particularly reproductive health, as well as the area of menopause and, more fundamentally, perimenopause. So, we're going to now look into this video and talk about some of the main problems that I have come across during my research and in conversations with my friends when I put together this video on some of the most fundamental problems that women are experiencing as patients in the healthcare system when they are approaching towards menopause and really needing treatment, guidance, and support from healthcare providers. Now, I'm barely just scratching the surface of this whole topic. I only realized when I was doing all my research on this, it's such a broad, big topic to talk about, and there is so much, research that's not even been done so far. So, I'm just literally scratching the surface, and it's something that I'm going to be deep diving into in future videos as well. But for now, let's just make a start on what I have discovered so far. Number one, the first thing is that there is a massive stigma that is associated around menopause and perimenopause, which really surprises me because these two stages in lives for women are just as normal as menstruation and puberty. Yet this is something that is almost made to feel invisible, and women generally they're made to feel as if something is wrong with them, as if, they are, being too emotional, being too hyper, being too whatever. So they're always made to feel that there is something wrong with them when they are undergoing this really fundamental change in their life. Not just by society, but also mainly by healthcare providers. So, and what really disappointed me was to actually gather that a lot of healthcare systems actually point menopause down to a disease, when it's actually not. It's just as fundamental a part of life as what I've just mentioned before. So there's a big stigma around menopause for some reason. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. So people, not just patients, but also healthcare providers in general, really hesitate to bring up the topic of perimenopause and menopause with their patients, and also look into their symptoms and the problems in much more detail. So that's number one. Number two, and this is not just for perimenopause and menopause, this is for overall everything in the healthcare space in general. The major fallacy is the fact that healthcare providers just assume that the treatment and the healing process and the support for every patient who's undergoing this is a one-size-fits-all. And that I've mentioned in a lot of my past videos about conditions that were not even related to menopause and perimenopause, is this fallacy, this big flaw, that everyone has to be treated in exactly the same way, in the exact same manner, and everyone has the exact same symptoms, which is completely untrue. Our patient cohort and the population is so much more diverse now, and obviously menopause affects only women of when they get to a certain age. But even there, they just assume all women are going to experience their journey of menopause as being exactly the same. So it is not a one-size-fits-all, and as a result of that, a lot of healthcare providers will just literally say, for example, when patients are coming to a healthcare provider and saying, I'm experiencing symptoms of anxiety, depression, paranoia, anything like that, and they may think that they are getting to that age where they're menopausal. And what a healthcare provider does typically is that they will just prescribe them antidepressants, that's just for all mental health patients, or on the other extreme, they will prescribe them hormone replacement therapy very impulsively without really getting to the root of what the issue is. It may well be menopause, but it could be something completely different. And also the other big issue is that, there is a big overprescription of these two types of treatments and medication. And as a result of that, a lot of the topic of menopause overall in general is really catastrophized by this overprescription and subsequent overuse of HRT and antidepressants as almost like a band-aid without really getting to the root of the problem. That's number two. And number three, a big one definitely, is an overall lack of understanding, education, and awareness by healthcare providers about what menopause is. So think about it. Every field of medicine is specialized. So now we have orthopedic surgeons, we have psychiatrists, we have OBGYNs. So every field of medicine is specialized. But healthcare providers in general, they haven't been trained up until now to really understand what menopause is and really understand the fact that it is a separate condition from everything else. And therefore, it has to be viewed, supported, and treated in a completely different manner. So that was very much the case in the past when people finished their qualifications in nursing, sonography, anything in the OBGYN space, or even in general medicine. But only now there has been a lot of outcry, a lot of people being vocal, thanks to social media, about what the reality of menopause actually is, and not just about what they are experiencing as patients, but also how the medical system generally treats these patients in what I would say is a very disrespectful manner. I'm going to leave in the description box below of some people whose research you should absolutely check out, who've really kicked a lot of goals and really gone leaps and bounds in this field of the reality of menopause. So I'm just going to leave the screenshots also of people over here. For example, Shelley Horton is a big media personality in Australia, and she's actually going through perimenopause currently, and she's become a massive spokesperson of this whole movement. So all of her work is really centered around this concept now. And quite recently, I also came across Stephen Bartlett's podcast, Diary of the CEO. There was an actual doctor of menopause, where she actually exposes a lot of the lies about what the media and mainstream medicine is telling you about menopause. So these are the two main ones, but there's so many more, but I'll leave as much as I can in the description box below. But the point being that there is just a big fundamental lack of education, experience, awareness, and overall professionalism, which I'm going to get to shortly, about how to help patients deal with and navigate through this change of life that's known as menopause and perimenopause. So that was number three. Number 4 is the general lack of autonomy that patients feel and experience. So, as I mentioned previously, doctors or any healthcare provider, they will just to put numb their symptoms, or just to put a little quick fix band-aid on it, they will just prescribe medication left, right, and center without actually asking the patient, is this what you think would be best for you? Instead of going, should we do more tests? Should we, space this out over a long period of time so that we can actually get to the root of the problem, as opposed to just putting a band-aid, the way I say it. So the patients generally feel like they really don't have a say, and also because the healthcare provider obviously doesn't have much of an understanding, the patients are also being kept in the dark as a result of their lack of awareness and understanding. And also, as I said, women, patients, and healthcare providers in general are not told the truth about what menopause actually is, and the true symptoms that it leads to, and how people actually go through it, what happens, the changes in their body and their hormone levels. There's just a big dark cloud that has been there in the past, but obviously these people are now really coming out in the open and being very vocal, and I'm very grateful they're actually doing that. So that's the big thing. And last but not least, a big one that I have made videos about in the past is the concept of medical gaslighting. So obviously you can't entirely blame the healthcare provider for actually doing this, because they don't fully understand menopause, but at the same time, that's really not an excuse. Now, I have heard of stories, not just from the work that Shelley Horton has done, but also from my friends who have actually gone through this. So if you want to go and check out my videos on medical gaslighting, there's a playlist that I'm going to link over here. So some of the symptoms, I'm just going to read off of an article that I just came across on the internet about what sort of medical gaslighting they actually face. And I'm going to leave a screenshot of that over here as well. So, number 1, they just write off a lot of the symptoms of menopause as just being normal, or they could just misdiagnose it or incorrectly label it as being cardiovascular disease. Or the other thing that a lot of my friends have told me is that the doctor will just, or the healthcare provider in general, will just say, have you tried to lose weight? So they'll question about their lifestyles. Now, I'm not saying that that's entirely wrong, but you can actually see what the healthcare provider is trying to do in that situation. Instead of asking them really better quality questions, they are just trying to jump to conclusions, which again is a big classic sign of medical gaslighting. The other thing also is that, let me just keep scrolling at the moment. So, your symptoms of menopause or anything else are generally belittled or completely dismissed. Healthcare providers just completely refuse to run tests or a relevant appropriate test or conduct a physical examination that's required to correctly diagnose what stage of menopause people are in. And questions are normally not answered. They're just, downplayed or completely ignored. And a lot of the times, say if you're going to a GP to get some guidance and support, they will refuse to put you through to a specialist because they don't know. And because they do, the reasons why they do this, well, I'm going to get into that in another video. Another one that my friends have often told me, and this article completely validates that, is that your symptoms are blamed on your weight or your mental health history without conducting any proper evaluation. And healthcare providers just simply refuse to listen and respect your experiences and knowledge of your own body. So the lack of patients having any autonomy over their body and their choices, as well as the fact that you tell healthcare providers telling patients something to the effect of it's all in your head when it comes to talking about the symptoms of menopause, is very, very gut-wrenching and very disappointing. And it's just really heartbreaking to hear that women are just expected to grit and bear and toughen up during such a fundamentally crucial stage of their life where they need just as much support when they were going through motherhood, puberty, anything else before, or menstruation, if not more. Another one that I just thought of, that just came up to the top of my head, was the cultural stigmatization. So there was obviously stigmatization in the very beginning that I talked about, but there's also now cultural stigmatization that we have to worry about in the space of reproductive health. So I come from a culture where things like sexual health, sex education menstruation everything is considered sinful, impure, and dirty. So you just don't talk about it. We're not educated on it. We're not given any awareness as women of what goes on in our bodies. So I'm guessing it'll be exactly the same in this case of menopause. And I'm sure that there would be a lot of cultures who do or say the same things. So there's that. Now, I just wanted to cover some of the problems that I have heard from my friends and from these sources that I'll be linking below in the description box, where people have experienced firsthand how they were treated when going through menopause or perimenopause, and how it made them feel, and what healthcare providers could have done instead, which I'm going to obviously talk about in a future video. Now, as I said, my knowledge and experience on this topic is very, very limited because I have not yet gone through it. So if you are somebody who has gone through menopause and has had a not so good or even a good experience with a healthcare provider, please leave those in the comment section below, and I would like to learn more and like to know more about your experience as well. And similarly, if you're a healthcare provider who has some misconceptions that people don't know about or on these two phenomenons, please leave your thoughts over here as well, because my knowledge in this topic is very, very limited, as I said. And I'm just going by what my friends who are going through it are telling me, as well as the research. So hope you enjoyed this video. As always, if you like what you hear and see on my channel, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and leave it a like. And thank you very much for your ongoing engagement, support, feedback, and presence. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much.